This is the hardcore icon, just incredible. And subscribe to DNC Digital. Now, that's not just the coolest, and that's not just the best. DNC Digital, now that, my friends, is just incredible.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy D from DNC Digital, back with another episode of DNC Radio. My guest today is a wrestling legend, Just Incredible. Just Incredible has wrestled for WWF and ECW along with many others, and he has an awesome story to tell. And it's kind of cool because it talks about, just like we all have highs and lows, and it's more of a, like, the fun times in professional wrestling and his life and the way getting to that success, but also how to get yourself out of the low, which is also which is always good for anybody facing anything, any kind of adversity in life. So Justin, welcome to the show, sir.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No, man, no problem. Let's start in the beginning. What exactly gravitated you toward professional wrestling as a career? I mean, everybody like grows up and watches and jumps off the couch armrest to do the Macho Man elbow and everything. Yeah. But what exactly made you decide to say, you know what, I'm probably going to do this?
It's a question that I get asked a lot, but I didn't really think about it until I've been answering it a bit more lately. I was a big fan, as we all are that watch wrestling and stuff. And around 15, 16 years old, I started doing it in the backyard with my friends. And I really, we're just having fun, playing around and whatnot, like a bunch of, kids have done or are going to be doing. One day, as I getting ready to graduate high school, the grades weren't that great. And I always had played with the idea of being in the wrestling business. I started reading the newsletters, the dirt sheets. This is before the internet, obviously. So I was very fascinated by the attendance, the numbers, ratings, how the business really was, and finding out more and more backstage, how stuff was booked, the little intricacies. And, 1 year passed, not 1 year, I'd say a little while after I got out of college or high school, I was like, maybe I'll take a year off of school. I didn't know what I was going to be doing. I went to Catholic high school, so it was like a prep school to get ready for college. That was the point of my parents paying for me to go to a good school, but I really had no idea. And after going to my first wrestling show, live wrestling show, that really caught my attention was Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat. I went to see him in 1989 at a small arena called the New Haven Coliseum, which just got the WWE and the NWA used to run there. And going to those shows and seeing the energy of what, 3, 4, 5,000 fans, sometimes more, packed into this arena, and the energy was just ridiculous. And I was like, it was the closest thing to being a rock star. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know how to play an instrument at the time, right. Where I didn't have any musical ability, but I was always a good athlete. I lifted weights. I was probably in high school, like 175, 180 pounds. I was 6 foot. So I was like, I still was considered in those days small. This was around the time, like the smallest guys in the business were like Brian Pillman and, Owen Hart, and they weren't small compared to today at all. But on the WWF or, right. In WCW, they were. Mm-hmm. So long story short, I took a year off, got a job at a grocery store here in Connecticut. And on my break, I was just a bag boy, getting carriages and whatnot. During my break, I went to read the Mark magazines, the wrestling magazines that they had in the newsstands. Those are still a thing. And there was an advertisement in the back that said, Hart Brothers Pro Wrestling School, Dare to Be Great. And it was a cool advertisement of Brett, all the brothers, Bruce, Keith, Owen, Stu Hart, the father. And there was actually a phone number there because, you either had to write a letter or call. And it wasn't like, an 800 number. It was literally one of the Hart's numbers. So I called and I spoke to Bruce Hart. which I thought was wow, even though I didn't know him, as a wrestler, like I knew of him, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And I certainly knew of the family. So long story short, we talk, and they wanted $3,000 to go to Calgary in the summer of 1992 to train to be a pro wrestler. I saved up money, got a flight, paid it all up front because that's what you had to do back then, at least. I don't know how it goes today.
Right.
And I literally got on a plane, and they had someone pick me up, and, not knowing anybody, really being a mark.
Just went there blind.
Blind, yeah. And because I thought pro wrestling was like the NFL. Honestly, I didn't realize that so much of it was a work. Like, I mean, I knew it was a work as far as what happened in the ring, but I thought WWF, or I call it WWF, but WWE, but back then it was F,
Yeah.
Or, I thought WCW and WWF were like the NFL. And I thought it was like really organized and all this, man, I was in for such a rude awakening. It was just like, it was amazing. It was disheartening, but, at the same time, I was looking at the sheets and saying, these guys are all making six figures, Mm-hmm. I thought money was, and I thought in my stupid head, I'm like, oh, I'll be good. I'll get a spot. Like I thought it was like the NFL. Like if you play good, you'll get drafted, you'll get on a team,
Yeah.
And I was so blind with it in my mind, being that mark, that's the attitude I went up there with. And it served me well. I mean, the Heart Camp was brutal, very physical. I worked so hard there, man. 12 guys and gals. I think there might have been one or two gals at the time. Mm-hmm. Only 2 finished the camp. It was a Monday through Friday, 2-hour a day camp. And I finished, and with this other gentleman that started. And I went home for, a couple of months because, that was it. The camp was over. But they were starting a wrestling territory up again in Calgary.
Okay.
Where they would be running once a week on a Friday night. And they welcomed me back. They said, well, if you want to come back, come back and wrestle. So I did. I went home, regrouped, got a little bit more money. And, on October 16th, 1992, I had my first pro wrestling match on my 19th birthday.
Awesome.
Against one of the kids from the camp. Wrestles today as Big Daddy Hammer, but back then his name was like Brett Farrell, I think his name was. And that was it. That's how it started. I had my first 10 matches out there. One of those matches was against Chris Jericho. Because he started through that camp a year and a half before, and Lance Storm, who actually did a lot of my training.
Yeah, he trained you a lot, right?
Yeah.
To talk about the training, what's one thing that you weren't prepared for at all? Because when people want to become professional wrestlers, there's always one thing that maybe professional wrestlers feel that is not focused on enough. What would you say?
Right. The amount of physicality. I mean, I knew it was going to be physical. It's pro wrestling, but the shape you have to be in. I played sports throughout high school. I was decent at everything, but not great at anything. One of those guys, but I just, I didn't realize how much amazing shape you have to be in. We would start each camp training session jogging a couple of miles. And then when you get in, before you even get in the ring now for the training session, and then you do not all at one time, but you got to count 500 free squats. Whatever increments, if you could do 10 in a row, 20 in a row, what have you, but you got to do 500. Then your bumps, you practice, they teach you how to bump and stuff like that, how to lock up. I mean, they really, one thing I love about this, and in my pro wrestling 101 stuff, and anybody I train or do virtual seminars with, I always harp on the basics, the basics being so important, in pro wrestling that, anyways, that's what they really dug into my head. And that's, it was just, go ahead.
I'm sorry, but I want to talk about Lance Storm. He is one of the guys. I grew up only watching WWF. So I didn't have cable, so I wasn't fortunate enough to check out WCW or ECW. We'll get to those later. But when Lance Storm came over for the whole invasion angle, and I remember he had a SummerSlam match against Edge, and I was just like, Jesus, this guy is like so smooth in the ring, and now thank God he has his own school and he works for WWE. But can you talk about how instrumental Lance Storm has been to your career?
Oh, sure. I mean, extremely instrumental. He was the first person I really got to know in wrestling. First person and one of very few people that I trusted then and still now. I mean, he's in this business. You meet a lot of different types of people, some, not all by any means. Some are not stand-up guys or gals. You really meet a lot of, for every great person, you meet a person that's ready to kind of that old carny style is out to get you, I didn't expect that. I was a nice guy, very naive, like I said early on. And Lance was always a straight up person, just an honest dude, smart dude, and great communicator. So in that aspect of being trained by Lance, I mean, it was the Hearts camp, but he really trained me. You know what I mean? I like one of the Hearts, mostly Keith, would come once or twice a week, get in the ring, maybe show you a couple hip tosses or some arm locks, but the day-to-day work really was Lance and whoever else, like some other guys might come by to work out, bump around. I know Jericho came by a couple times, but yeah, Lance really did all the training for me, or 90% of it, I would say.
You guys went on to be the Impact players, getting tag titles in ECW and even feuded, which must have been awesome. So we're going to touch on that a little later. I do want to know ECW One Night Stand. Yeah. What did that feel like coming out with Lance one last time?
It was really great. I mean, I knew that there was talks of them possibly redoing ECW under the WWE umbrella, which they did end up doing, not right away. Right. Initially, it was supposed to be just the one night stand, but when WWE got the numbers back and Vince saw the buy rates was like, it was as good as anything. Besides like the Royal Rumble or, SummerSlam, WrestleMania, it kind of beat out all those, less, what I'm talking about? Those like middle of the road pay-per-views. It outperformed all of them. I forgot how much, but it did close to 1 million people, like buy rate wise, or a little under, but nonetheless, it was a huge success. Merchandise, the buzz was amazing. And
how was it back there, like in Gorilla with Lance, like ready to come?
Oh, it was
after all those years.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, we were probably gone from ECW and each other, although we crossed paths and not Lance and I, but me and other guys had crossed paths in TNA, and I did a couple of tours of Japan and some indies, but just to be with Lance was really cool. I worked with him in the Invasion. I was there with X Factor, so I had actually I teamed with Lance a couple of times. As a matter of fact, in Chicago, it was me and Lance versus Edge and Christian on a live Monday Night Raw, but they did not call us the Impact players. We were just Lance Storm, just incredible, the Alliance, right?
But to come out as the Impact players, banner on the ECW, like that must have just been insane. And the crowd ate it up. Later on in your training, you started doing some enhancement work for WWF and WCW. What were some of the similarities or even differences between both companies in terms of production and organization?
You really got to understand how unorganized WCW really was. Seriously, it was bad. Like WWE really had their shit together as far as you knew exactly who was in charge. What I mean in charge is like, when you're at TV, it's a big deal. Like it's a huge production. There's so many people, running around with headsets, and you don't know any of these people, or you don't if you're there as an extra in the beginning, at least. So WWF, they had everything kind of set up where it was easy. And in WCW, I was there for 2 or 3 shows. at the Orlando studios where they shot it. And I'll tell you, I don't even remember once talking to I think I talked to Jody Hamilton, who was one of the wrestlers / bookers. I forgot who he wrestled on. He was like a masked wrestler back in the old days. And he was the guy in charge of us. I didn't know who was paying me or who to see for anything. Like, I just saw your name up on the board. And, the referee would tell you your finish and how long you had. But realistically, I worked with Vader and the Nasty Boys. And it was just like, you're wrestling Vader. He's going to beat you in 5 minutes with the thing. Okay.
So it was like, go out there, call it in the ring, and make sure this is the finish. Yeah.
And I'd ask around who's paying you, who's got the money, and this guy, and you got to sign for it. It was so unorganized. Where in the WWF, it was so professional. You had agents for every match. You had times. Everything was on paper written down, just really pro. And WCW is just because I don't think they knew. It's not like they were doing it to be dicks or something. They were just like a lost ship. There's somebody in charge, somebody new in charge every day.
As an observation, somebody who's a genius in the wrestling world, it doesn't mean that they're a good buessman. To run a business is totally different. So you've well, hey, I love that guy, but I didn't work with him. But so you did a lot of enhancement work. You ended up getting a contract with the WWF. They offered you, but I want to know about this one because you were initially supposed to be a soccer player. Do you remember anything about that? What was that character about?
It was really simply it was around time of the World Cup. And business was bad overseas or in America. This was around the time of the steroid trial. And, Vince was going overseas a lot because generally the overseas business was much better than it was here in America. Davey Boy would headline Europe, especially England. So they were trying to do something like that with me in South America because in, Brazil is 75% of South America. They're Spanish and Portuguese speaking, South America is. So in Brazil, they speak Portuguese. So they figured have Aldo Montoya, which isn't even a Portuguese nor Brazilian name, again, as a soccer player, and I can go out there and speak Portuguese and stuff like that. But that didn't even come to any kind of fruition. They showed me a picture, a sketch, a black and white sketch, and I was number 24. I had long feathered hair, very 90s-esque, kind of 90210 meets
great.
90210 meets Bono from the 80s.
Beautiful
kind of haircut. Yeah. So I was that was what I was supposed to be, but then they came back with a different version of the Aldo character, which was, I looked like a Power Ranger. Realistically, I had these big shoulder pads that are very colorful. And the original mask was actually shaped just like Kane's. And it was a half a mask. It was supposed to look like Kane's, but the gimmick, since it had been changed, was so rushed that we didn't have anybody to make the mask like that, because we'd even gone to an S&M shop in Manhattan to try to have some leather work, and they just couldn't get it to properly move and actually make it functioning as a mask, not just to work, to actually wrestle in it. It's not like you have a mask maker, especially then. Now you could probably find somebody online. But back then it was a lot more difficult. You had to have these costume people. We only had 2 ladies that worked there, and a lot of them were always busy doing Sean's stuff because Sean had like elaborate costumes and he was getting a new one every pay-per-view. Seriously, so he had like one girl pretty much to him. So they made the Aldo mask. It came out the way it did, which was a little corny. It looked like a jockstrap, which everybody knows. And I literally got handed the outfit an hour before I debuted on Raw. Literally 1 hour. I put it on for the first time.
Really? So did Vince want to see it before you went out there, or was it was okay already?
He was good.
Wow.
Back then it was
he was good. He was fine.
Man,
he was on.
Back then you had to be a pro. I mean, you really did. If you were in the WWE, they give you something to do like that. You go out there, you put it on, and you do it. I mean, because that also kind of shows exactly that. Are you able to go?
Your reliability.
Drop of a dime, you're good. And I learned very early on. Oh, sorry about that. I'm sorry about that. That was a phone call. I apologize. But you have to be able to really go at the drop of a dime. And yeah, man, that was it.
Speaking as a professional wrestler, that totally it brings up a good point. If you look on Twitter and Facebook, everybody's always complaining about something going on TV. And I always say that nobody hates the wrestling business more than wrestling fans. There's always something that somebody wants to nitpick. When they're like, this guy deserves better, that guy deserves better. Why isn't this guy getting booked? Or that girl doesn't deserve to be there. Whatever the critique may be. As a professional wrestler in the business, do you ever, I guess only from your experience, do you ever tell yourself like, hey, I got a job, I get to wrestle? Or is it more like, man, I really wish this can happen for me?
You really understand very quickly. And you're lucky you have a job. I mean, bottom line, because you could complain and look, storylines, character, all of that matter to a degree, of course, because you want to get over, because if you get over, you'll have contract longevity. You'll be able to negotiate with other promotions, more money because of merchandise, etc. So you want to be able to be, you got to be careful at how you're booked. That being said, for a lot of years, I was happy to have a job because, like anything else in life, there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle, and a lot of people that get caught up in the being a mark, like, oh, he's not getting enough promo time, or I have to do a job to this one. It's like, well, I get to go out and be a professional wrestler, and I get to participate in all of these. It's not just about going over; it's about literally every aspect of it. There's more than one match on the show, and there's ways of helping the product, there's ways of helping the company, there's promotional aspects, there's helping with finishes, creative stuff. So there's so many aspects to it. I was just happy to be a cog in the machine, and I got to do that on many levels with many companies. I mean, I went from being a jobber, an extra, where I was not contracted, to then as Aldo being contracted for 3 years, making 6 figures a year, traveling the entire globe, learning how to be on television, really an experience of a lifetime. Then I got to go to another promotion where I main evented several pay-per-views and was their world champion, and had action figures, and was on video games. And, so, I've seen and done it on all levels, mid card, upper card, lower card. And it's all the parts we play at certain times. I was just happy to always have a job. That's part of it, man. At the end of the day,
one of the,
yeah,
definitely. One of the more popular characters at the time was Razor Ramon, played by Scott Hall. And I read that he took a liking into you, and he wanted to keep you under his wing. What kind of stuff did he teach you that you even maybe teach your own students today?
Kind of that stuff I mentioned earlier, and I'll get into more specifics, but he taught me how important basics are. And what I mean by that is, Pat Patterson taught me this, but, I learned it first from Razor. And then, I saw a great example of it one day. Razor would say to me, there's two gladiators in this arena, and, you're the opening match. The first thing they see the entire night is going to be, you two gladiators locking horns for the first time. Here's, 2 guys that are buff, look the part, the crowd's hyped. And if you go out there and you don't know how to lock up, or you take a headlock and it looks cheesy and it doesn't look crisp, your punches, the way you move in the ring, it's all so important. Like, the way you sell to the fans, instead of like, if you have long hair, a lot of times you'll see good wrestlers taking it out because you always want to show your face, and you're not just performing to the people in the front. You're performing to that guy way up in the rafters. So you learn to sell with your body and really be like your mannerisms and your motions are got to be bigger than working a room that's maybe 100 people at an indie show. So he taught me a lot of stuff like that. And to see how relevant this was. And I saw this during one of my Aldo days, one of my matches. I was second match on the night. And the first match was two young guys. We were all in the gorilla. They go out. It's Vince McMahon, Bruce Pritchard, and Pat Patterson to watch this tryout. So I'm getting ready, doing some push-ups, whatever, not really paying any mind. Look over the monitor. They go to lock up. The minute they lock up, Pat just throws his headset, walks out. And Vince is like, Pat, where are you going? These guys, I want you to watch them. They're getting their tryout. Fuck them, Vince. If they can't lock up, they can't work.
Damn.
Done.
Just from the lockup.
Because it was horrible. Here are two guys that are all muscled up, look great.
And then they just did this. They just did that.
Right.
Okay.
And that killed it. And, because I guess he figures if he does that like that, I'm sure there's a bunch of other stuff and holes in his game. Right. Because, and I know it seems probably a bit harsh, but that's how important the little things are up there. And really to be a good performer, it's those little things, because little things all amount to big things.
Definitely.
So it's like a lot of kids want to dunk and hit 3-pointers, but you can't make a free throw or dribble.
Fair.
It's like the mechanics, the basic mechanics are so important. So important.
So from the amount of time that you spent, around Vince McMahon, who is like a legend, and the guy, like, there's so many stories about him. What's one of the more surprising characteristics that you learned about him?
Wow. He's a lunatic. He outworks everybody. He does, dude. Yeah. And one of the things he's infamous for is like, he hates showing any weakness. Like, if you yawn or sneeze, he hates that, which is like,
sneeze one is crazy. It's so, he hates it when he sneezes, apparently.
Yeah. And I don't know I don't remember him being like that in the Aldo days, because I actually had a lot of interactions with him. The way I first got my job, well, not even the way I got told I was getting a job was, PJ, you want to take a walk with me? Simple as that. We went outside. I'll never forget it. We were at the Lowell Memorial Auditorium. The Memorial Auditorium, meaning it's an army kind of thing. Okay. So we went literally outside, and it was like a second-story thing. And we were on this balcony alone, and there's a big American flag. And he goes, first of all, he's intimidating as hell. He looks the part. He's so scary looking. Like, because how powerful he is. Business wise, but also if he wanted to kick your ass, he would and could, or he could have you buried, because I've heard some mafia shit too. So he's like,
Jeez, really?
I know where the bodies are in Stanford.
That's the first time I heard that. My God, that's so crazy.
We're talking like Vince.
So tell me about the balcony. Yeah, you guys are talking. So
Vince is like, you see that flag? I said, yes, sir. He goes, that's the United States of America, the greatest flag in the world. The land of opportunity, sort of like the WWF, the land of opportunity. PJ, would you like an opportunity? So he gave me the whole land of opportunity pitch. And that's how he sold you, because back then they weren't giving guaranteed contracts. Not until a little bit after, a couple of years after, during the Monday Night Wars, trying to get people to not go to WCW. He was, everyone had the same contract, believe it or not. All of our basic contracts were 3 years for 10 shows a year at the minimum of $150. So that's all you were guaranteed. It was called a booking contract. Everyone had, which basically means like, if you're making no less than $1,500, we're not guaranteeing you anything else. But in that booking agreement, you're also, we're going to put you on television. We're going to make you a superstar. And then you're, obviously, you're going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars, but in no place does it guarantee you anything but that. So it's crazy. People
I I got to speak to Duke the Dumpster Drosy a few months ago, and yeah, we become cool friends. And
Mike's cool,
it's
dude.
funny because just like you said that, you know, Vince outworks everybody. It's not only in the physical sense, but in mentally too. Duke told me, he goes, that guy is a Jedi. He will get in your head and make you believe something and sell you on the thing.
Yeah. And it's, you know, in some ways I admire him for that, but in other ways there's just a lot of it's, oof, man. I mean, I don't mind that tough guy thing. You know, there's a place for all of it, but a lot of the stuff was almost too much. You know, like, look, if you're hurt, you're hurt. You know what I mean? And we all, and you know, he was good to wrestlers for the most part that had certain issues and injuries and whatnot. But just because he had, like, he wouldn't ask you to do something he wouldn't do himself.
Right. Yeah.
But just because you're a lunatic doesn't make us lunatics. So you always felt a little bit like pressured in some ways. You know, I've wrestled, you know, with concussions, you know, and no protocol for concussions. Are you okay? Yeah, okay. I'm okay. You're not okay. You know, so many times I went out there. There was one time I wrestled the Head Shrinkers, the Samoans, and they knocked me out cold live on television. I literally do not remember. I remember going out to the ring, and I remember waking up at my mom's house because I was still a kid. I was still 19 years old, 20 years old. And somehow I got from the Manhattan Center, got in my car, got my pay, changed, and got home, not knowing how I got there.
Not knowing how the hell you did any of that.
Nope. I just, you know, I remember going out on TV and waking up at my mom's. I was blacked out. And on TV, literally the first couple moves, I was out so cold, they shouldn't have even moved me. They should have just ended it. They pulled me to the apron, tagged the other dude in, and I laid there cold the entire time, like not knowing if I was dead for real. Like I was out. Like it's out there somewhere. I think it's on my Twitter feed from a while ago. But after being the Portuguese Man of War for a while, you came to the decision to ask for your release instead of sending you to Memphis. But can you talk about the decision itself to ask for your release? Yeah, I was just, I felt as a performer, I was really starting to become good. And I really remember kind of the catalyst for that. I was doing a house show run for a couple months with Chris Candido, God rest his soul. Yeah. And we were the opening match on the B-Towns. And when you did B-Towns, they usually gave you a little bit more leeway to have longer matches. So Chris and I were opening match, crowds hot, you know, it's like 1,500 people at but they're small buildings like high schools or little auditoriums. So I loved it. Crowds hot, first match. And Candido and I went out there and we were tearing the house down. We were literally doing the old Flair Steamboat matches for like move for move almost. Like those, nice. They were really good. And the crowd was getting into it. The boys were putting it over while, you know, at the curtain and shit watching. The agents were giving me great reviews. So after a while, you know, a couple months go by and I keep rocking it with everybody on TV, on TV. And I'm like, dude, I'm coming into my own. So many people are jumping ahead. I'm like, Vince, I call a meeting. I said, I could do more. You know, I want to do more. This is, you know, well, you know, we'll do something. Nothing happened. Finally, we call a big meeting at the office and it was me, Pat, Bruce Pritchard, and Michael Hayes. And again, we don't have anything for you. You know, I said, well, can I have my release? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, why? Aldo Montoya is not going to hurt you in any way. He goes, that's not it. He goes, a couple of my guys are going over there. More guys going over to WCW is going to be a bad look for the perception amongst the boys. Like, you know, nobody wants to stay here. Sure. He goes, we've invested too much time because Razor and Kev told me to come down, that they'd talk to Bischoff and get me a deal. So anyways, they said, we'll send you to Memphis, learn how to work as a heel. Then we'll bring you back up under a new character and as a heel. I said, okay. Went down there, It's fine. Worked with Lawler for a good 6 weeks. Rocky was down there too at the time. Rocky Maivia was getting his start. Okay. Anyways, Candido, again, the name comes up, was down there the last night of the tour with the ECW crew they were doing an angle, ECW and Lawler, where Lawler was the baby face, ECW was the heel. So it was Heyman, Sabu Van Dam, Candido, right. Tommy Dreamer, the Sandman, the whole crew. And Candido's like, yeah, man, you should really come to ECW. It's the shit. I'm getting good money. We're really going places. I'm like, I don't know, Chris. I'm really scared of doing that crazy shit you all do. He goes, no, and I was intimidated, Yeah, I'd never done that. Of course. And Chris is like, don't worry about it. It's all a work, dude. He goes, trust me. He goes, I know you're like me. He goes, not everybody does that. We need wrestlers too. And they did. They had like technical wrestlers. Yeah, definitely. They had a little bit of everything. So I said, well, okay. And Candido went to Paul. Paul and I spoke. Paul went to Vince and said, give me PJ's contract and I'll put him in ECW. So we don't have to, I'll take him, take him off your hands. And he will, so we won, I won. I mean, they were already working with each other then. I just didn't know it. WWE and ECW. Right. But whatever. It was one of the best moves I ever made. And towards the end, I was making more money as Just Incredible in ECW than I was as Aldo. I was making $3,000 a week, as Just Incredible. Jeez, and Aldo, man. I was making maybe $2,000 a week. Again,
it's a good jump. So ECW, everybody goes back and just, it's something that will outlive us all. They will always talk about it. They will always look back with such, it's almost a romantic relationship what wrestling fans have with ECW. Talk about that pocket of time. Talk about that energy that you guys caught, the lightning in the bottle. What was it about ECW besides the fact that it was establishment and all that? From the inside, did you guys know what you were doing as far as the success that it would eventually become?
Yes and no. We certainly knew something was happening. We felt it. To this day, the crowds, I've never seen anything so passionate. I mean, it was really a love affair. And it was the first promotion, and I think only promotion to this day, where fans were honestly as big of the stars as the wrestlers themselves.
Yes, definitely.
I mean, it was really like they were part of the show. Not any one individual, but the whole room. They made it like this is all of ours. And it was really the stuff we were doing, both inside the ring and outside the ring. And then the lore, all the things you hear about, right? I mean, it's like a behind the music on steroids or more. Like it's just everything you could imagine. It's like Motley Crue on the Sunset Strip, kind of. It was sex, drugs, and rock and roll, except sex, drugs, and wrestling. It was a romantic period because we really were going up against the corporate machine, and wrestling fans wanted something new, something fresh. ECW couldn't happen today for various reasons.
Of course.
One, the political correctness of the era. We couldn't get away with any of it. The wrestling was good, sometimes great. But it wasn't even that. It was the vibe of it. It was going to a small arena in Philadelphia that holds 2,500 people if you cram them in like a sardine, and on a hot, sweaty night in Philadelphia, everybody's just jammed in there. You could, everybody's so close, and it's 120 degrees in the building, in the summer, and everybody's going nuts, and enter Sandman blares, and people are throwing beers and getting in the ring and jumping up and down. I mean, it was so punk rock. So it was just a crazy vibe. And like I said, the fans were just as much the stars as anybody. I mean, fans would be sitting around the building for hours before the show. They would bring lawn chairs and party like almost tailgate style for ECW shows. It was ridiculous. And we did that everywhere we went, Florida, New York, obviously Philly, Chicago. I mean, we were. It got to the point where it really was a cool event. It was almost like wrestling was cool, but being in the building, like there was in Queens, there was a $5 ticket to get in. It was called the Madhouse of Extreme. It held about 1,000 people. And there was a $5 ticket where you can get in the building, but we can't guarantee you that you'll see the ring. Like you could hang out in the hall, in like the concession area, and you may be able to sneak a peek. It was just so much fun. That's all I could just say. So much fun.
Paul Heyman was the mastermind behind all of that. And then you worked with so many people. The first blood match with Tommy Dreamer, Jerry Lynn, who you went on to have a crazy feud with, like we touched on earlier, tag titles with Lance Storm. And then you were able to capture the world championship. So I everybody thinks like it's a prop, and maybe it is, like in some stories, but I can't imagine them telling you you're going over. But then when the third count is counted, this Portuguese kid who was Portuguese Man of War, and now you moved on to bigger and better things. What was that world title like with that relationship with the fans in that building?
Oh man, I found out I was winning real quick. I found out probably an hour before I won, or I was being told. I was tag team champions with Lance same night. So I had to drop the titles, but I wasn't wrestling. Lance, I think, had a singles match. I wasn't wrestling, which I found weird. And I wasn't on the show, but I was like, okay, whatever. Maybe I'm just doing promos tonight after the show, Okay, who might have questioned? So then an hour later, Paul tells me last minute, he goes, get dressed. This is what we're doing. Dreamer's going to beat Taz. And then you come in, you drop the tag titles, say, screw this, screw the Impact players. I want Dreamer. Here we go. And you win. And I was like, whoa. Because I want to, if anybody says they're not a mark, they're full of shit. Not because I actually won the title, but what it represents is, there's only a very small number. There's titles and all of this stuff. But in wrestling traditionally now, going back to those days especially, there were the top three places always. It was always the AWA, WCW/NWA, and WWF. After AWA went under, ECW became the recognized third world championship in America and throughout the world. Now, to be a world champion right in those Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazines next to Ric Flair, next to Hulk Hogan, I used to look at those magazines and be like, man, the top 10. And I remember I have a picture of it somewhere. I think it is on my Insta. The top 10 in the world in 2000, I was number one. And what that meant was I was big enough of a star that I'm there with Hogan and Flair, and I was main eventing pay-per-views, main eventing house shows. It was just like, I'm good enough to be in that spot. So that's what it signified. It wasn't about the belt. It was about we respect you enough and you're good enough to represent ECW as our top guy during one of the hottest periods in pro wrestling. That's what it meant to me. That's why I was like, wow,
You went back to WWE as Just Incredible, and then you had a run with Sean Waltman, X-Pac, Albert as X Factor, and I remember watching, and I was like, damn, those three are great workers, but it's like there's something missing. Can you put your finger on what was missing for X Factor to be successful?
Yeah, I don't know, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
It felt as much as Sean and I were friends. Yeah. I think Albert didn't fit in. They wanted to do remember how Shawn Michaels and Kevin Nash, Shawn was the little guy and then Kevin was he was going to be the muscle for us. We were supposed to be the the smaller heels, like pests almost. Okay. And he was going to kind of be our muscle. Like, as we're losing the match, here he comes, boom, we win. Something just didn't click. I felt it. Sean felt it, but we didn't know really how to change it. It's like,
how did you feel about that entrance music? A lot of people.
That was my idea. That was my idea, believe it or not, because to this day, I'm still friends with Uncle Cracker from Kid Rock. And that's where we got the song. And his brother, Cracker's brother, was my manager. So we said, instead of using that corny WWE music, let's do some heel shit and use a song people are going to hate. So I figured every time they heard that, they were going to get that song, and we've certainly to this day still get remembered for it.
Do you think that's a lost characteristic with heels nowadays, that they want to be the liked heels, the respected ones, rather than the ones that you really hate?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for a long time there's been nobody that, everybody wants to get the babyface response, So yeah, true heels are
no. I mean, there was an interview. There was an interview with Baron Corbin, who a lot of people don't like. He said he would go to Twitter and read what people don't like about him, and he would do that even more. And he goes, "I'm trying to get booed. This is my."
Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying. I got you. I thought you were going to say he would get upset about it. I was like, Baron, I don't like him either, though. But there's two kinds, right? There's and a lot of people felt this way about Sean Waltman, is there's heel heat and then there's turn the channel heat. And I think, and I think X-Pac had that for a while, where they hated him, but they didn't want to see him anymore. After DX, for example, I think he burnt out. And I think that didn't help X Factor. And I think Baron Corbin suffers from that a little bit too, because I can't put my hands on it. He is good, right? He's good,
great.
But I don't know.
I love the guy.
Yeah, but I don't know. For some reason, he doesn't click for me at times. But
right.
Yeah, I mean that's just me.
So after X Factor ran for a little bit, you decided, they put you with the Alliance, and that ran for 5-6 months. Was it like a high school reunion, just being around all the guys every week?
Yeah, in a way. I just
when they start to retouch on ECW days, do you feel like we should just leave that alone, or do you like it when they try to rehash?
At that time, I still liked it. Because I thought it was unfinished. You know what I mean? If that
fair to
sense.
say, yeah.
Yeah. But, it just, anything in the WWE, unfortunately, gets, you just get, I don't know, they take the love out of things at times. They certainly did then.
I mean, there was such an influx of people when talent. They grabbed all the contracts. Yeah. Was there a lot of competitiveness between all these guys trying to get some TV time?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was just lucky at that point to have a spot, dude, because, there was 3 wrestling companies at one point in 1999, let's say. And now in less than a year, you have lost how many hundreds of jobs in WCW? Probably 60 to 70 jobs in ECW. So right away there's 2 companies. So now you got one, the conglomerate monopoly, really. So it devastated the business. And I think a lot of people's careers, got cut short or never happened at all. I mean, I tell you, my life would be extremely different today if there was a third competitor, because TNA and Ring of Honor were nothing yet compared to what they are. So a lot of guys like me lost our time to become, veterans, not veterans, but in 2007, after the fake ECW went down, it's where do I go? So a lot of my good years where I could have done something were lost to the indies, So
it's really nowhere to go. It was definitely a big change. We move on to TNA.
Yes.
You were in faction with Jerry Lynn, and they had again. They tried to rehash the ECW feel. Do you feel like even working there, TNA was a competitor for WWE?
No, not yet. No, they just WWE is just so special with, like I said, their professionalism, even compared to a multi-million-dollar corporation like that WCW was when it was owned by Time Warner. they just, WWE just was like a well-oiled machine, and TNA just had a bunch of people there at the top, at least that I could remember, just collecting checks. The top guys in the top positions just wanted to kiss Dixie Carter's ass, keep getting that nice payday, and they didn't care. They weren't really, working hard. They were working hard, but they were just yes men and women just trying to keep their jobs instead of, hey, this is what's best for business.
Right.
They were booking their buddies and, Hulk Hogan, of course, and I love Hulk, but now, Hulk's down there. Everybody's down there getting a payday. Yeah, instead definitely. Of, hey, let's bring in guys like AJ Styles and Samoa Joe. And they did, but we don't need Hulk to bring those guys in, and use them. We got them already, So
July 19th, 2009, the New England Hall of Fame.
Yes.
What was that night like for you, man?
It was all right. I mean, it was more of just a remembrance of my career, but I don't like those things because it's all subjective, right? To me,
fair. Okay.
Look, I'm happy that somebody thinks of me that way, but it's done. And I think the WWE does this as well. It's more of a gimmick to sell tickets and to sell an event. More than it is a legitimate celebration, and especially something like the New England Hall of Fame, which sounds really good, but there's no credibility to it. There was like 30 people there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it sounds cool, and I'm glad, but even the WWE Hall of Fame, the best thing about that is you get a Legends contract, and for a couple of years you hit the autograph circuit making some good loot.
Oh, hell yeah, definitely.
But and I hate to sound like that's so cynical, but that's the truth, dog. That's the truth,
So when it comes to pro wrestling,
yeah,
I feel like it's always good to go back and it's always good to revisit stuff. But now that we're moving forward, and there are a lot of promotions now, what are your feelings on these other promotions? Do you feel like they're definitely trying to compete with WWE, or do you feel like they're just trying to do their own thing and not really worried about the outside world?
I think for the most part, they're just trying to do their thing. At least that's what I see. I could be a little wrong, but because there's so much has changed. I don't think it's wise for anybody to really look at the other and say, oh, we have to compete, or, why? There's plenty of room for everyone to thrive and succeed, especially with the way, we get media and content is readily available on streaming and so many ways to get it that there's enough opportunity. There's enough days in the week for everyone to have a piece. And, fighting the WWE, I honestly think it would help the WWE more than help anybody else if there was competition on that level. Because it only seems that then that's when WWE kind of fires itself up.
Yes,
and
definitely.
Feels like, you know what I mean? Like with the Monday Night Wars, because that was legitimately, we have to win this or we will go bankrupt and go out of business. Or Vince felt that way, and Bischoff, it was kind of a reality if they didn't. So that was the best thing Vince could have done, because you put Vince's back against the wall, he's going to come out swinging. So, yeah.
A lot of people online credit you as being, a part of the Kliq also when it comes to Nash and Michaels, Hall and X-Pac, Sean Waltman. If you can pick any one of them, because I know we can't go through all of them. If you can pick any one of them and give me your best story of that particular person, I got to hear one of the stories from one of those guys.
Oh, man.
And it doesn't have to be a Kliq story. It could be like a funny story. It could be just a rib you guys pulled on each other, something. I got to hear a good story from one of them.
Oh, this is a good one. And I haven't told this one in a while. All right. We go to Montreal, and that's traditionally, a really cool place for us to wrestle. There's always a lot of stuff going on, for us. There was this great strip club that we'd go to near the hotel, because they're legitimately, it's not just us saying it, there wasn't a lot of great food at the airport area. In Montreal, it's like very difficult. It's the way it's set up. It's not like you go to an airport here. There's like a ton of restaurants. All of it's right there for you. You have to like really go out of your way. So you don't want to do that when you're driving a rental car, if you're drinking and stuff. So we found this strip club that we'd go to all the time that actually had really good steaks, because we wanted to go. Yeah, no, it was
some
the first shoot.
Meat in there, bro. Some good meat.
Yeah. So, we land, we used to get, whenever we could, we'd get a huge industrial size van to get everybody in there. So it was literally me, Kev, Scott, Kid, and Sean. All of us are there. The only one that wasn't there was Hunter at the time. And I don't even know, he might have been there. I just don't recall him being there for some reason. So we all get there. We go to the strip club to eat before the matches. But the matches, this was like Thursday night. It was Friday night. Montreal we did on Saturday. We did the Friday shot was Quebec City, which is about 3 hours east from Montreal. So we're at the strip club. We start doing shots. Now, this is like, the show starts at 7:30. We look at the clock. It's like, 3 o'clock, 3:30. We're really starting to push it now. And Kev's driving, but he's not drinking. But Sean and them, all them guys are on like last or second to last. I'm on first. So I'm sitting here like sweating it. And they're like, "Oh, don't worry about it, puss. You're with us. You're gonna get in trouble." Another round. I drink another shot. I'm fucking, dude. I'm wasted. I'm feeling good. Drinking beers, drinking whiskey. We're at the strip club, feeling good. Finally, we leave at about 4 o'clock. Now it's 3 hours. The show, we're literally like, I'm supposed to be there at 6:30. There's no way in hell we're gonna get there at 6:30. We're pushing it if I get there by 7:30, and I'm the first match. Not only am I the first match, but I'm drunk. Like, not drunk like so, but I'm.
But you're feeling it.
I'm feeling good though.
You're feeling
really
great.
But I'm nervous too. I mean, we're doing shots of Jack and drinking beer, having steak. The girls were looking good. So whatever, we get there, get in the car. Kevin's hauling ass. To get there. This is pre-cell phones, right? So we're sitting there like, oh my God. I think Kevin actually we might have had one of those, remember cell phones in the car looked like a goddamn computer case, like the removable car phones. I think we might have had one in there. Yeah, the big ones. We might have had one there. So we call, and we're late as fuck. And we call Tony Gurria's like, they're like, "Where the hell are you?" And they're like, "Oh, we're bullshitting them. Well, there was traffic, PJ, when is he on? He's on first. You guys got like 10 minutes. They're like, "Well, you better get dressed in the car." I was wrestling Quang, a.k.a. Savio Vega, when he wore the mask. So they're literally, we're hurrying up. We get there at 7:30. They already do announcements. I'm getting my boots laced up. We pull right into the arena. It was one of those big arenas. Pull right in there. Quang's already in the ring, right? So I'm already in the ring.
I've been playing your music for like 2 minutes.
On, my music hits. I don't talk to anybody. I get a water that was laying around. It wasn't even my water. Throw it on my head. There's like how they got the sodas for everybody in the ice. I dunk my head in there to kind of wake up. Boom, come out through the curtain hot. About 10,000 fans. Everybody's cheering. I'm feeling good. I got a real nice buzz still going right now. So all of a sudden I'm in there. I'm like, to the ref, I'm like, "I'm sorry." He goes, "What's the finish?" I'm like, I think I was winning with like a high cross body. I was going over. And, Savio's like, "Okay, don't worry, motherfucker." He's Puerto Rican. He has that thick accent. "Okay, motherfucker, don't worry about it." So we start going. And Savio, but he was doing Quang, and Quang did a lot of chops, like martial arts stuff. He did the kicks and stuff like that. So, and we'd wrestled a bunch. So we're having a cool match. He's selling for me. I'm hip tossing, drop kicking him, hurricanrana. And then when he takes over, like he moves in the corner, I hit the post. I go through and I hit the post. all of a sudden I start to see the locker room kind of coming up to the curtain, and what we call a sellout at the curtain.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Where the boys are. Well, I'm starting to see Taker and JBL and some other guys are all out there looking. I'm like, what is going on? Oh boy. Savio decides, puts me in the corner, chop. Oh. Okay. We're going boom, just chopping, but laughing, like,
and then, having a great time. Yeah.
But after a while, it's like 7 or 8 of them. Then I'm starting to be like, Savio, what the fuck? And he's laughing. And then he goes over to Taker. Hey, one more? Taker. Yeah, give him another one. Chop. I sell all the way across the ring, sell, but almost like, no. I drapes me over. Hey, one more? Yeah, everybody's just egging him on. And dude, he ended up giving me like 20 or 30 chops that night.
The kid decided to show up late, so I guess you had to pay for it.
But at the end, it actually helped the match because it was nice and snug, and the fans were digging it. My chest was all welted up like Steamboat and Flair. It was all. So, anyways, I went over. The crowd loved it. Everybody laughed, and at the end, it was funny. And I didn't get any heat. I didn't get any heat. Everybody goes, "See, you're lucky we like you."
Nice.
Hey, funny.
Justin, I really appreciate your time. This has been so cool to be able to
thank
talk
you,
to
man.
Oh, no, thank you, because I remember watching you as Aldo Montoya, and then, Alliance time, like you coming in, and it's just been so cool for me. I do have what I like to call the lightning round. I'm just going to shoot questions and see what happens. Besides the ECW arena, give me your best arena.
The Hammerstein Ballroom in New York.
Fair. Okay, so anybody, any era, dream Survivor Series team. It's you and 4 guys.
Flair, Barry Windham, Arn Anderson, and Tully Blanchard.
Wow. Okay. Dream opponent went around your time. What's one guy in the locker room you wish you would have gotten in the ring with?
Brian Pillman.
And what about a dream opponent now? Anybody you see now that you're like, man, I wish I could have maybe
John Moxley.
John Moxley. Oh my God.
Yeah, I think we'd have good ones.
Is he the guy that you have your eyes on as far as this era's professional wrestling?
I think there's many, but he reminds me a lot of what ECW was, because he could wrestle like a lot. I mean, I'm not saying I'm as good as him, but in my day, I did the hardcore, but I also could wrestle. And I like where he's going. He could do a little bit of everything.
Who is the cheapest guy on the road?
Oh, Razor was really cheap.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
I'm telling you, I bought more meals than he ever, and he made so much more money than I did. And another one is Jeff Hardy, cheap as hell. really cheap.
Who was the funniest guy in the locker room?
Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash is really funny.
Best piece of advice you've ever gotten in your wrestling career?
Save your money.
Okay.
Tony Gurria.
Sensational Sherry or Miss Elizabeth?
Sensational Sherry.
The coolest experience you've ever had with a fan?
Billy Corgan, meeting him as a fan. He was a fan and came to one of the ECW shows in Chicago, and he wanted to meet me. And I was like, wow, pretty cool.
All right. Some word association. Undertaker. First word that comes to your mind.
Boss. Leader. Locker room leader. Triple H, big nose.
Vince.
Crazy.
Sean.
Sexy.
Nice. Owen Hart.
Funny.
Bret Hart.
Best there is, best there was, best there ever will be.
Hell yeah. Mr. Perfect.
Just perfect.
Yokozuna.
Awesome.
Nice. Just incredible. Where can they find you on social media, sir?
Absolutely. Just follow me on Twitter at PJ Polacco, and of course on Instagram at PJ Polacco, and ProWrestlingTees.com/Just Incredible.
That is Just Incredible, former ECW and WWF superstar. I am D. You can find me at DNC Digital on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Everybody have a great night and take care of yourselves.
Thank you.